All right, let's jump right in. We're going to tackle a question that, a lot of people in the faith really grapple with. What actually happens when a believer, someone who's been saved, sins against God? This is all about grace, consequences, and how that relationship with God really works after you've been saved.
So, this is the big one, right? This is the central question we're digging into. If your salvation is secure, then what's going on spiritually speaking when you fall short? Now, the answer isn't as simple as, oh, nothing happens, but it's also not that terrifying thought of, well, you're out. Instead, the source material gives us this really incredible two-part framework to understand it all. It involves God's response as a loving father, and then Christ's constant role as our perfect advocate. So let's break down that first part, shall we?
The first piece of this whole puzzle is the idea of divine discipline. The Bible often calls it chastening. Now, we're not talking about punishment that comes from wrath here. Not at all. This is more like correction that comes from a place of love, just like a parent guiding their child. And this verse from Hebrews just nails it, doesn't it? It completely reframes the whole idea. Discipline isn't a sign of rejection, it's actually a sign of acceptance and deep love. It's something God does for the people he considers his own kids. It's meant to correct us, to shape us.
Now, what's so fascinating here is how this sharpens that distinction. The book of Hebrews goes on to say that if you're enduring this chastening, it's proof that God is treating you as his child. But if you never experience it, the text suggests you might not be a true child in the first place. So, and this is wild, God's discipline is actually a confirmation of who you are to him. And that really gets to the core of the relationship. See, before salvation, the Bible describes people as enemies of God. But through faith, that status fundamentally changes. You become a son or a daughter. So God's response to his child messing up is discipline. His response to an enemy's rebellion is wrath. They're two completely different dynamics. Okay, so let's move on to the second part of this amazing framework. While the Father is discipling us here on earth, we have this powerful ally working for us in heaven, Jesus Christ, our advocate.
So, what does it actually mean to be an advocate? Well, think of a defense attorney in, the ultimate courtroom. It's someone who stands up and pleads your case. And in this situation, it's Jesus Christ, the only one who is perfectly righteous, standing before the Father and interceding for us.
This verse from 1 John, this is the anchor for the whole concept. It's so explicit. It says, when we sin, we have an advocate. And get this, it's not a one-time thing. Other parts of Scripture say Jesus lives to make intercession for us. It's his continuous, ongoing work for you and me.
Okay, now this is a really, really critical point. Having an advocate is this incredible provision of grace. It's like a divine safety net. But as the slide says, it is absolutely not a license to go out and sin. The source is so clear on this. This is a remedy for when we fall, not an encouragement to be reckless. Sin should never be the normal habit of a believer.
And yeah, to be clear, that safety net doesn't mean there aren't consequences. Sin always damages our fellowship with God. The source points out it can provoke God, it can hinder our prayers, and it can withhold good things from us. Grace doesn't erase the consequences, it provides the path to get restored from them.
So, how do we put these two big ideas together? A father's discipline and a son's advocacy? Well, we see them as part of this lifelong process of spiritual growth, a journey that involves both God's amazing grace and our own duty.
The source uses this fantastic analogy of milk, meat, and bone. Spiritual growth is a process. We all start with the simple truths, the milk. Then we move on to the deeper stuff, the meat. And eventually, we develop this strong spiritual framework, the bone. And of course, mistakes are going to happen along the way. That's just part of learning and maturing.
And while God's grace is the engine that drives all our growth, we have an active role to play. We're called to do these things, to submit, to draw near to God, to walk by faith, and to actively chase after holiness by putting on the full armor of God. Grace gives us the power for our duty. It doesn't exempt us from it. But here is the beautiful paradox in all of this. Even as we're striving and doing our part, the source reminds us that it is ultimately God that worketh in us. Any growth, any good thing we do, it's all credited to his grace working through us.
And this quote from Jesus, it just gives us that final, humbling perspective. After everything is said and done, our service is simply our duty. We don't earn special merit, we're just fulfilling our responsibility out of love. So the big takeaway is this.
When believers sin, they aren't rejected. They are met with a father's loving discipline and a son's unwavering advocacy. It's a system designed not for condemnation, but for restoration and for growth.
And that leaves us with one last thought to really chew on. If this is true, how does this whole framework of discipline and advocacy completely reshape how we understand failure and struggle in a life of faith? It suggests that even in our absolute weakest moments, we are still held inside this powerful system of grace that's designed to bring us home.